Welcome to Rewriting League's Lore Part B Villains. If you don't know what I'm doing, I have a long video called Part 0 where I go really in depth of what's going on here, but the fast and dirty of it is I want more stories coming from League of Legends, and it's so good with like stories like Arcane and some of their cinematics that they're starting to release with the new like 2025 season 1, season 2, season 3, etc. Those cinematics so far looks amazing. And I really don't want to wait. It sucks because there's so many great stories, and I think League of Legends stories in a way is a little bit ambiguous. It's there, some things that happen, but it's never really definitive. So I really want to just put out there a very definitive story, start to finish, of all the characters that we see. I want to do it with the community. So the reason why I'm doing part B, it's sort of a brainstorming session with the community who's ever watching it. You comment down there. I take the ideas. When I get to part 1, that's when the story starts going. So I'm going to do part C and D also. So there's time. So if you have ideas, always come back and comment. Everything's really appreciative. But right now I'm going to talk about the villains that I want to highlight moving forward, right? Like in this creation of the story, like here are the villains that are going to be doing big stuff that's going to really drive it. I did part A with the heroes. These aren't necessarily connected, but everything's going to get intertwined and connected one way or another through the stories. I don't want to connect them and bog down people, so I'm kind of just scatterbraining everything around. So let's get right into it. First up is Camille. I think Camille's a unique villain, especially post-Arcane. I'm making Arcane canon, and I think Camille offers this new wave for Piltover and Zaun, where she's trying to take over. She's taking things into her own hands, and I feel like it's a great person for Caitlyn and Vi both to unite against, because she could steal the Hextech technology and do what she wants with it, and she's starting to really push down against some of these Zaun criminals, but it's punishing Zaun as a whole. And then what she does in the city itself could make Caitlyn mad, and maybe she's trying to take over Caitlyn's position. That's my general idea. I personally really like the cinematic that Caitlyn had with Jhin. I know that's not canon or anything, but it really, seeing her in that as like a reveal sort of style, it really shows that she has a lot of potential in terms of story. I don't think she's like a big time villain, but I think in terms of like the long long Piltover and Zaun story, I think she could cause a lot of drama that it could be like 3 seasons alone. Just her being the constant threat and causing constant problems. Veigar. Now, I said I was going to go a little different direction. So I know that Veigar got like tortured by Mordekaiser, but I really think it's a fun villain to have, especially considering Yordles. I know in the current lore, they're moving Yordles away from like an army to just another group of people. But I think Veigar has this unique aura around him where he's not like all the other Yordles. Due to his past, he wants to be evil. And so I think he could be such a fun villain where he is causing so many serious problems. And then it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where you get to the very end and it's like, oh, it's just this stupid, funny little thing that's causing all the issues, but the actual threat is just this small guy. So I think the big arcing story of Veigar is just causing all this evil stuff to happen just so that he can prove that he's evil. I think that'd be fun. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are in general. Like, is Veigar even worth progressing? Do you have any unique takes on the character? Let me know. Next is Xerath. This is one of the skins of Xerath. I know that this isn't his base skin, but it really shows sort of what I would love to see, where he kind of plays into the void a little bit, right? Because he's not really ascended, but he is. He's kind of just pure energy. And I would love for him to kind of, as a villain, partner with the void once he's freed and gets his material body back. But it's at the cost of combining with the void. So he becomes this weird void-born monstrosity of energy ascension. I think this would be a really cool storyline for Shreema. I think it's a unique take on what's going on over there. But let me know what your thoughts are, because I think currently with Azir in the current story, right? Like all that's going on. It's cool, but I think let's attack Xerath, and what will Xerath do to overcome Azir and all of that in the present day? What will that do? What will that look like, right? And I think this is a great image to start building his villainous. Like, what is his motivation, right, to conquer Shrima, and what will his end boss fight look like? I think this is a good image, but let me know what your thoughts are. Thresh. So Thresh to me has always been one of the most evil characters just in terms of like personality. And looking at the Shadow Isles and the whole Viego storyline, I feel like Thresh has so much room to be this mastermind, evil being over Viego, who has this sort of, like, he just wants to be with his girlfriend, bride, whatever, right? Like, that's all Viego wants. You can really sympathize with him, but Thresh could be this big villain that, like, from the beginning, he's been plotting, doing all this evil stuff. And then, yeah, Viego did something unexpected and screwed him over. But now he's back after, like, the events of Ruined Nation, which would be a big story arc. But I'm thinking he's a big threat that could push someone like Lucian over the edge. I didn't make Lucian a hero. Neither did I make Senna. I think both of them tried to be. And I don't want to make them protagonists. I feel like that's something that current league is running with a little bit, but I want to go a different direction and make Thresh just this big villain. But Lucian and Senna are just kind of the drivers for a lot of other heroes and protagonists to really beat down on Thresh, and they have a tragic story. But Thresh in general, I think, will cause a lot more issues. Maybe he's the carrier of the Ruined Nation event, kind of just wherever he goes, kind of leaving this very ugly curse. Kind of like the Ikathia in the Void. Sylas. I put Sylas last. I think he's obviously a clear villain. He's just some crazy mage guy, essentially. But what I really want to do with Sylas is make him sort of Freyord born, Demacia imprisoned, and he hates both regions with all of his heart, and he actually wants to become king of magic of both, but he can't use any of his own magic. He has to steal it from someone else. And I think that would make him a funner character to read. Like, he's obviously evil, and he's going to use Lux as like an engine, which would be interesting. Definitely, it would take a new spin on the story a little bit, where he's going to leave Demacia. Demacia is going to try to put a fight, but Sylas is like, I want to take over Freyord, and if Demacia wants to come fight me, then so be it. And so that'll be the interesting story of how does Demacia take the fight to Sylas, leaving this magic canceling out like forest. So Sylas is sort of this multi-region threat, and that's what I want to keep this list down to, is like current and big threats that are really going to drive multiple stories. So maybe this is how Demacia and Freyord really start to ignite and get to know each other. Like maybe Ashe gets involved. Who knows? But let me know if this is too aligned with the story to really retcon it. Like, do you guys have any other ideas of how to reassociate maybe this villain, or a new take or a new direction that people aren't really considering? Because I think his story is pretty cut and dry. I don't want Sylas and Lux to have any kind of like romantic relationship. I think it's definitely kind of a culty relationship, limit to that. But yeah, that's what I have so far. Now this one might be shocking. Aphelios. My idea with Aphelios is there's not a lot of great Targonian villains, in my opinion, right? Like, I feel like there always been sort of this hero, but when you have this huge conflict on a mountain between the sun and the moon, I was thinking about Diana being a hero, and then we have this second character, Aphelios, that's aligned with Diana's whole culture. And I think it would be so amazing if, you know, something happens to Diana, and then from her people being the heroes, Aphelios takes it and makes him the villain in like a second story arc or something. Because he's mute, so he's just very lethal. He has this very strong artifact weapon. His sister's trying to help him, but, you know, Aphelios just can't see reason. I don't know, right? Like, just generally the direction I'm going for is something happens to Diana. Aphelios really looks up to her, and he takes the weapon and he goes to town on the mountain, causing a lot of distress amongst the Celestials. And this could be sort of an aspect war or something, right? And bringing in maybe some unique heroes that we didn't expect that the Celestials are really allying themselves to directly, like Rise or something, for example. Maybe Kale gets pulled away from Demacia as well as Morgana, right? I think he's more of a Camille-like villain where it's localized in the region for sure, but it could provide a unique take where a lot of regions are going to have to support this conflict, like the Icothian War, or very much like with the Void that first came and attacked Shurima. That's sort of what I'm going for. Next is some of the crazier doubled up ideas. So I started with the craziest one, which is Zed and Shen. I think this will be a fun idea. So hear me out. Is what if we don't know who's the bad guy between these two? I think that, Zed's always been the clear villain. He's always been looked at that way, and Shen's the good guy. But what if it's more ambiguous than that, right? Because the classic story is like Zed looks into the box when he's not supposed to, and he sees something and becomes his bad guy. That's kind of the quick explanation there. And they've forever been against each other. I love that because it really sets Shen in a bad light, right? But then Zed's reaction is equally as horrific. So I think a story centered around these two, both doing questionable things in a story of ninjas, could be fun and exciting, where Akali and Kain are the main characters, or maybe Akali's just the main character, and she just doesn't know who to trust, right? And they're both just feeding her information on a mission, and she finds out the dark truth about Shen, as well as the dark nature of Zed. I don't know. That's where I'm going. Let me know what your thoughts are. Is this too far-fetched, or is there something you would like to add? So Mordekaiser is such a large villain. Obviously, like, he has his own stake in the timeline of Runeterra, right? I don't think there's too many people that have a whole era of time named after them. So Mordekaiser is obviously a huge villain. He wants to come back. That's why the Black Rose is trying to stop him. He's too much of a threat as the undead king. Self-proclaimed, I believe. The crit did a lot of great story breakdowns of him. And I really don't think that Mordekaiser should be a lone villain. I want to throw Swain in there as well as like a manipulator. Like, in their own rights, both of them crazy villains. But I think individually, they're all both trying to do separate things. I look at this very much like Marvel Rivals, where you have Dracula and Doom. Like, both of them are villains, but Doom is using Dracula to buy himself more time. And so maybe that's sort of what Swain is doing, is using Mordekaiser to progress forward in what he wants to do himself. But let me know what you guys think. I don't know exactly what the direction is, because this is definitely something that hasn't happened. It's something they're building towards eventually. But I want to go in a unique direction where Swain is definitely the bigger villain potentially. Kind of like Mordekaiser's the first coming, displaces all these great artifacts that he knew about, and then Swain just swoops in and takes them and uses them in his own way, maybe to conquer Demacia, or even a bigger goal of like stealing the Bless Isles, stealing Targon, like just crazy shit like that. Like, what is his scheme? We don't know, and that's kind of why he's just a master of deception, is sort of what I'm going for. Is he's such a great tactician that as soon as he got into power, the Black Rose just doesn't know what Swain is doing, but they know that the secret is safe. But what happens when the secret isn't safe is kind of the idea of this story. And the last two, with this video running a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm just rambling sometimes, is Annie and Bran. And I know these aren't their base skins, obviously, but Annie is a character that I really want to highlight a lot in this rewrite. I think she should be doing a lot more. Obviously, she got her... I wouldn't say she updated their story, but generally, like, the Black Rose took her in, gave her this crazy fire demon, and now that's how she got her powers, as well as like Timbers, or like she had power, but now she's like super enhanced with that demon. That's what Tibbers is that fire demon. And that's fine. I mean, that's totally okay. But I really think that Annie should be this troubled child, maybe like slightly darker past, got introduced to the Black Rose super early. They put a lot of crazy ideas in her head, and then she took that into her own logic. But I want Annie to be this big villain, this big, constant annoyance. Sort of like Nocturne, Shaco, Evelyn, where they just seep in the shadows. When Annie pops up, it's so annoying, right? Like, she causes such a big wrench into plans, right? Like, maybe people are sailing to go stop Viego, and she just destroys all the ships just because, like, she's doing her own plan. Like, she wants Viego to unleash Moon Nation for her own game. Like, she knows something that everyone doesn't. So, yeah, that's kind of my idea with Annie. Let me know if you have something else you want, because I think this is such an old character that's been around for so long that she should really have a huge spotlight in the story, just because so many people play her. She's been around. She has so many skins, right? I think she should be a big character. And then Bran. Bran is just trying to destroy the world because of the whole Rune Wars classic story, right? And I know this isn't a base skin either, but I want Bran in my, where I'm looking at right now for Bran is he is not really necessarily trying to destroy the world, but with the runes and his adventures, he just sees that mankind can't be saved. He learned about the Darken Wars, the Void, what's going on in Freyr. Like, he learned all of this, and Rise learned it as well. But because Bran was carrying the runes, it made him just go crazy. The Watchers got into his head, something like that, and that what made him go crazy. And he's actually was the Void put these ideas into his head, and the runes gave him the power. And so that's why he's on his mission. And maybe he's specifically trying to destroy something that will connect us to the Void, and that's crazy, right? That's kind of the villain work of Bran. I think Bran is just, I don't think he's the greatest villain, but I want to use him in a very productive way to make Rise's story feel better. Because I think, what if Bran was the engine that brought the Void into Runeterra, right? He blew up a hole big enough for all the Void creatures to come in, and now, like, Runeterra has to unite against it, right? Like, Bran was the reason why the world is at risk of being destroyed, which is what kind of aligns with Bran. He wants to burn it all. But if you have a different, more meaningful direction, please let me know. Maybe they're both connected by the Fire World rune, or, I don't know. Like, the fire magic connects them somehow, so they're both just causing a lot of destruction and mishap. There's a couple ways you can go. I just want to generally see what people think about these two characters and how to use them in a story. Because I don't think League of Legends or Riot in general is really trying to use them at all. I feel like they are just these super straightforward destruction-based characters, and they don't have a lot of depth. So I'm trying to instill depth in a recreation of the lore. But yeah, let me know what you guys think for sure. I'm going to end this video now because it's running on a little long, so I'm sorry for that. So let me know in the comment section below your ideas for the villains, for the heroes, any ideas at all. I will take them. Until next time, look forward to part C, where we're going to talk about the regions as a whole, and then part D is going to be plot lines. So subscribe if you want to see those. Peace.